Good morning. Welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission. We are on the record in case number 9645, which is the application of Baltimore Gas and Electric Company for an electric and gas multi-year plan. Almost exactly 1 year ago, on December 16th, 2020, the commission approved Baltimore Gas and Electric's request for a multi-year rate plan for a period of 3 years from 2021 through 2023. At the time of the proposal, BGE's request was to freeze rates for 2021 and 2022, and customers would, in effect, only experience a rate increase on their bill in the third year, 2023. However, the commission modified that proposal and set the bill impact discussion for a later date. That date is today, and we'll also likely have this on the next administrative meeting, which would be on next Wednesday. Pursuant to our December 16th order, the rates for year two, which is calendar year 2022, were to increase approximately $38 million, although the rate impact was to be decided because of the federal tax credit and the amount, if any, that were to be applied to customers' bills for that year. As I stated earlier, the commission elected not to exhaust those federal tax credits in 2022 because doing so would have had a larger impact in the third and final year, 2023. On November 1st of this year, BGE filed tariff revisions to its base distribution revenue offset riders. BGE proposed that no accelerated tax benefits be applied to the distribution rates for rate year 2 and rate year 3. BGE's reasoning was that this offset should not occur due to the improvement in the economy and the lifting of the state of emergency on July 1st of 2021. Today is an opportunity for the commissioners to ask questions of the parties with respect to BGE's request not to apply the tax credits in year 2 or year 3, and what the impacts would be to customers. We'll begin today by taking appearances. We'll begin with the appearances of staff.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Michael Dean on behalf of staff. I'd also like to enter the appearance of Annette Garofalo and Lloyd Spivak.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. On behalf of the company, Baltimore Gas and Electric.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Beverly Sikora on behalf of BGE. I also have John Frayne and Lynn Fiery with me today.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Sikora. On behalf of the Maryland Office of People's Counsel.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Joseph Cleaver on behalf of OPC.
Thank you. Do we have any other parties? Montgomery County, are you with us?
Yes, Lisa Brennan on behalf of Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brennan.
Mr. Chairman, this is David Hobbick. So there are a couple representatives from technical staff, myself, Drew McCullough, and Jamie Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbick. Are there any other parties that seek to make an appearance? Thank you. As I noted earlier, we will be having a discussion of this filing on December 22nd, 2021 at our regularly scheduled administrative meeting. I expect that staff will have a buck sheet to be provided for at this time. So the commissioners now have some questions. Most of my questions will be for the utility itself. Let me begin. Ms. Sikora, the statement that was, or the filing that was made on November 1st, do I understand correctly that BGE is planning to effectively hold and not use or exhaust the remainder of any tax credits that it has in its accounts?
Well, we would use them, but in the manner that we normally would have. We would use the normal amortization that would have been used absent our proposal to accelerate them. So they will get used, but they will be used over a significantly longer period of time. We'll go back to normal.
Would they appear at all on any customer's bills, or would that line item for the BGE federal tax credit disappear effective January 1st?
The line item would disappear, and the credits would, or the tax benefits would just get baked into distribution rates, using a technical term.
Do you know how much remains in that account for the federal tax credit that BGE has on record?
No, but I am hoping that Mr. Frayne or Ms. Fiery do.
Mr. Frayne, do you know how much is left in the pot?
Apologies, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I was trying to get off mute. I don't know off the top of my head how much is left. I can get those numbers for you here. I'll look for them now and can answer that question in just a couple minutes.
Okay. Thank you. According to our rate schedule in our December 16th order, BGE is set to increase rates by over $38 million for 2022. Does BGE have a forecast or estimate of what those individual ratepayer impacts would be for residential customers?
Yes, I believe that was in our filing. I don't know if Mr. Frayne or Ms. Fiery have those more readily
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, if no offsets were used in 2022, the average residential customer bill impact would, on the total bill, would be an increase of $4.38 for electric customers and about a 4% increase. And for a combined electric and gas residential customer, the increase would be $8.23 and about a 5% increase.
Thank you. Perhaps I missed it, but were these numbers in the December 1st filing?
No, Your Honor, I apologize. They were not.
Okay.
They were not. I believe a due request response.
And they're also in the compliance filing that the company filed following the Commission's December 2020 order.
Thank you. I'll have to find that. I haven't seen that. Mr. Frayne or Ms. Sikora, if left untouched and this proposal goes into effect on January 1st with these residential rate increases that you just described, has BGE taken any steps to date to inform customers that a rate increase is coming, or would that have been premature prior to the December 22nd administrative meeting's decision?
Your Honor, we've been working, on developing, options to, put into place depending on what the commission decides. We have looked at that, but we did feel that it was premature, not knowing if the commission would accept our filing our proposal, or if it would, look to perhaps do something different, continue an offset in some amount. So, we have plans already, in the works, but we are waiting to get a decision. We felt it would be confusing to, possibly send messages that would have to later be corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Sikora. As you recall, in the order, the commission's concern was not to hold rates steady for 2 years as BG proposed and then see a more dramatic increase in year 3. Hence why we limited our decision to only freeze rates for 1 year and hope to have rates on a more stable increase for years 2 and year 3. I would like, if not available now, Mr. Frayne, to get a better sense of how much is in that federal tax credit reserve, because that could inform the commission as to making a decision whether or not any of those funds should be applied in 2022, or if the commission finds your proposal to not continue the tax credit on customer bills in January. So when you have that available, I know you're looking for that now, if you could just jump in. But at this time, I'll turn to some of my colleagues for questions. Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right, Mr. Frayne, that's a very important number right now. So as soon as you get it, you just pop right up and tell us you have it. So Ms. Sikora, when you say that the tax credit would be baked into distribution rates, is that to take effect in 2024 or prior to that?
No, it would.
With
Actually,
new
no,
rates, I mean, because you have a rate case already, so is that something that would roll in prior to a new determination on rates?
normally those, the tax benefits would be in a regulatory liability that would serve to lower rate base. But honestly, Mr. Frayne is going to have to jump in again. I don't know when we made our proposal, if the rates that we've, the commission already approved for 2023 and 2024 reflected any of those regulatory liabilities, or if they're going to have to be, started up back again in our next MYP case.
The rates did reflect those regulatory liabilities, yes.
They did, so that if the commission were to say, take some portion of that and say we want to offset, X percent in 2022, then that would come out and there would be you would correspondingly take it out of the regulatory liability and use it as for the offset. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. If the commission decided that it wanted to use a portion of that balance for an offset, would BGE be able to, assuming that is decided next week, would BGE be able to implement that by January 1st?
Yes,
Yeah.
Commissioner, we would.
Okay, so we're not going to hear like, oh my God, we can't change it because we don't have enough time. We're not going to hear that next week.
That's right. In fact, we've been working with staff already to try and, agree on rate calculations if offsets were to be used, and we'll be ready to implement whatever the commission decides next week.
Okay. I would request, Ms. Sikora, that in the future, when you're making filings that have to do with the multi-year rate plan, you make them in the docket. Because this filing wasn't made in the docket, and at least it doesn't appear to, it says Ray, doesn't say Ray case number. Oh, what's our case number?
9645.
9645, and I think that would be helpful for everybody involved to make sure that, if they put a hold to watch 9645, that they, they get notice that this filing was made. So just in the future, if you would please do that, that would be helpful.
My apologies, Your Honor. Yes, we'll do that. I will say that we did serve the filing on all the parties in the case. So
I appreciate that. Right. And that's good. I'm delighted
no,
to hear that, because that was going to be one of my next questions. Did all the parties get it? So that is helpful. So I guess I'm a little concerned that if the commission were going to approve the rate as the company proposed, you would have a fairly significant, a really significant rate increase in the winter month for gas and electric customers. And, they wouldn't be receiving notice until maybe a week before some of those customers are going to see the increase. I mean, that seems to be problematic to me. How do you think you're going to address that if that's the case?
To start, the company has already started communicating, or actually we did communicate with customers just generally about, the need for customers to prepare for higher winter bills because of the weather. So, we have been working to give customers that kind of heads up, more generally, which we do every winter. Unfortunately, just the timing of things, again, not knowing if there would be no increase or if there would be an increase, or what that amount would be, we didn't think it was prudent. We do plan on, as soon as possible, putting up social media stories, still discussing if a press release would be appropriate, would be updating the website, including a banner message right on the home page. There would be a message on the bill and potentially in the bill insert. So, we would use all the means, available to us, to try and communicate as quickly as possible.
Right. I would ask if staff and OPC, if you have positions yet on this, I'd like to know what they are. If you don't, I understand, and we'll wait until next week. But to the extent you have positions that you're prepared to share, I for one would be interested in hearing them.
So certainly Commissioner Herman. So staff is recommending acceptance of the company's proposal to not continue the offsets into rate year 2. And what we do in our comments is first we look at the change in rates, and so for electrics, for example, there was no increase in the customer charge in rate year 1. So the increase in the customer charge is only in rate year 2. So the change in rates is affected by primarily the volumetric charge. So we have a approved rate year 1 rate in the tariff. We have an approved rate year 2 in the tariff, and then we have an offset. And so the increase is the difference between the effective rate that ratepayers paid in rate year 1, which is the tariff rate minus offset, and then what the rate year 2 rate is. And so what we do is we present a series of scenarios, and we show you the bill impacts for those scenarios. So for electric, we show a scenario with no offset in rate year 2. We show a scenario with a 25% offset of the rate year 2 revenue requirement, and then we show the bill impacts for a 50% offset of the rate year 2 revenue requirement. And for electric, if there is no offset in rate year 2, for almost all classes, the distribution only bill impact is below 10%. There is one very small group of customers who do see a bigger increase. Those customers are part of Schedule G, and their rate went up quite a bit in rate year 1 because of the way their rates are set. So they are not subject to the BSA, but they are set at 96%, and Lynn, correct me if I'm getting the math a little wrong, 96% of the rate for G secondary. So these are the G primary class customers, and that caused them to have a quite large increase in their rate in rate year 1. And so they do have a sizable bill impact. The issue is that you would have to offset both the rate year 1 revenue requirement and the rate year 2 revenue requirement. So part of what we were looking at in our analysis is if we do continue the offsets, how much revenue are we offsetting, and understanding that revenue is essentially going to be collected from ratepayers in the future. So it will increase revenue requirements in future rate cases. So that was kind of the balance we were looking at. with gas, I think it's a little more complicated for two reasons. So first of all, there's obviously been a increase in gas prices, and commodity costs have gone up quite a bit for customers. So we show a comparison for a total bill impact as well as a distribution bill impact for gas Schedule C and D customers for the winter months, essentially comparing their bills for last January, February, and March in 2021 to estimates of their total bills in 2022. The other issue for gas is that the revenue requirement in rate year 1 is about 5 times larger than the revenue requirement in rate year 2. So if you're going to do an offset that's going to do anything to the bill impact, you really have to offset both. Again, in rate year 2, the rate year 1 revenue requirement and the rate year 2 revenue requirement. So the scenarios we're presenting for gas are in rate year 2, offsetting 20%, 25% of the rate year 1 revenue requirement and the rate year 2 revenue requirement. And then another scenario that offsets 50% of the rate year 1 revenue requirement and the rate year 2 revenue requirement. And you know, we present those scenarios and the bill impacts, total bill impacts, and we don't see a big movement in the total bill impact, even with that higher 50% rate year 2 revenue requirement offset. And then we've actually, if we do the 50% rate year 2 and rate year 1 revenue requirement offset in rate year 2, keeping in mind we already offset rate year 1 rates, we've actually offset more revenue than the company was awarded in the MYP. So we also include tables comparing the total level of offsets relative to the revenue requirement awarded. You know, thinking of this in terms of the fact that this is going to be recovered from ratepayers in the future through higher rate base. So that kind of walks through our thinking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoppick. I look forward to seeing that and very much appreciate staff taking that on and doing that analysis for the commission's benefit. So I look forward to seeing that. Mr. Cleaver, you have any comment or you want to hold off until next week?
So Commissioner Herman, can I add one other thing? I apologize for cutting off Mr. Cleaver. We are presenting offsets for our different scenarios, and we are working with BGE, as Mr. Frayne said, to have those numbers ready in case the commission did decide that it wanted to go with some level of offset for either electric or gas or both. So the numbers are ready. Our goal is to have the numbers ready for you if you were to decide to go that route. Apologies for including that initially.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Cleaver?
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. I'll be brief. I'll just say at the outset that OPC hasn't arrived at a final position on this. I will say that we're working with our accounting consultant that was our witness in case number 9645, Dave Efren. I've also, we've done some discovery and the company's been very cooperative. We've received responses. I also spoke to Ms. Sikora several days ago, and I think we're going to try to talk tomorrow about so that OPC can try to understand some of these conversations that have been happening with staff and BGE to understand some kind of different types of ideas as opposed to an all offset or no offset. I would just say generally, of course, OPC is concerned regarding commodity costs, supply costs this winter. And then to add this, say for a combined electric and gas customer, this number, the numbers that were asked about at the beginning, OPC asked for those in discovery a few weeks ago and got them. I think this is the number Mr. Frayne said, this $8.23 average monthly impact for an electric and gas customer. Of course, that's going to be much higher in the winter. Even setting supply costs aside, that'll be much higher in the winter, basically, because it's as I think Mr. Hoppick said, it's largely volumetric. So that will be significantly higher this winter. And then with respect to the idea of gas and electric treated differently, certainly understand that. I would just note that, for those customers who aren't affected by gas, such as, electric customers, those customers, many of them, a good number of them have electric heat. So again, this average monthly bill impact for an electric customer that we're seeing that's been provided in Discovery will be significantly higher in the winter months. So those are all concerns that we're trying to work through and to try to come up with a solution that's best for customers. One final comment. I know this isn't the exact question the commission asked, but I would just note that one of our questions in Discovery was we asked for the company to illustrate or to calculate for us what kind of offset would be necessary in terms of the acceleration of the tax benefits to continue a complete offset for 2022, and the company produced that information. So I know there's at least enough left in the reserve to keep rates flat in 2022. But I know that wasn't the commission's exact question, but we did receive that from the company in Discovery. So we'll be working with our consultant and with the company in the coming days to reach a final position to try to address those concerns that we have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think you answered my last question, which was, has the company been coordinating with staff and People's Council? And it sounds like you have. So I'm happy to hear that you have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The questions the answers that both OPC and staff just provided kind of lead into one of my concerns, which is obviously related to providing notice to consumers about the pending increase to their rates. Given the fact that these are volumetric charges and we're looking to have them go into, not all of them, but they're largely volumetric, and they're looking to go into effect on the 1st of January. Many consumers, and I guess all of them, have already incurred some of these costs, and they've already used the service. So the rate that they're going to have to pay just hasn't been established yet. But there's not an opportunity for them to avoid it by, turning the heat down a couple of degrees or wearing a sweater or whatever other solutions consumers have and try to use. So I'm hopeful, and this may be more of a comment than a question, but I'm hopeful that as part of your presentations that we get to see next week, that you include in there some thought about how consumers will be notified timely so that they can actually take whatever preventative steps they'd like to take. Given the fact that this period of time, especially for electric heating customers and for gas customers, they're using considerably more than what we would call the average usage over the course of a year. They're already consuming the energy now. So notice, if we give them a week's notice that the bill the energy you used 2 weeks ago is going to cost more, that's not going to go over well. So we may need to think about how to address that so the consumers actually have notice that they can take action on, as opposed to something that lets them know they've already incurred the bill and it's going to be bigger than even you possibly could know. I don't know if that's more a comment than a question. It's probably more a comment than a question. So that's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on Commissioner Linton's line. Did we order in our original order, Ms. Sakura, if you know, or one of the staff attorneys, if they know, did we order notification of customers, ratepayers regarding bill impacts in the various years of the multi-year rate plan? You're on mute, Ms. Sakura.
Sorry, I don't believe there was anything specifically about that, but BGE, because there was no increase in 2021, we didn't do anything on the bill or proact, kind of that way. But what we do, we have had an MYP page out on our website where, and I believe we've had stories about it in various channels that I believe were updated after the order, explaining, kind of what the order set forth in terms of, no increase in the first year here, that, potential increases in the second and third year, but the possibility of offsets then. So, we have made that, information available. Again, because it was a bit more complicated, we didn't do like a bill message or anything like that.
And do you know if the order that established alternative forms of rate making, multi-year rate plans, the pilot, established the pilot, not the rate case? Do you know if we ordered the bill impacts be notified to customers?
No, I don't believe those orders address anything getting to customers, about customer.
Did we order you to notify the commission of bill impacts of multi-year rate plans?
I believe information like that is part of the, the filing requirements. And then that was also in our compliance filing that we made after the order. That was in that packet of information.
Yeah, I know, just as a common sense, there was a great deal of fanfare made about how rates were offset and not going to go up the first 2 years. And we kind of obviated that, admittedly, in our rate case order for the second year, but it doesn't seem like we're having the same kind of transparency and fanfare when the rates are going to go up during trying economic times. And I'm not sure it serves the public interest well not to have that notification going out. And as Commissioner Linton noted, prior to the consumption of energy at the increased rates, or not, or at the increased impact, excuse me.
And I understand, and I agree, Commissioner O'Donnell. Again, we have found though that when we have to communicate to customers possibilities, especially because, there is a possibility that the commission could decide not to increase bills by using the offsets, it causes more confusion when we have to kind of give them possibilities. And so we felt it was better to wait until we knew what was going to happen for 2022. And,
Yeah. I understand the conundrum. I do. I get it, but just doesn't the call doesn't inure to the benefit of the consumer necessarily. One final question: how do we prevent this from occurring again next December?
I think in hindsight, we made our filing in November, which is one that, the commission directed us to file it. In hindsight, it probably would have been better to do it sooner. I think, we were probably wanting to, and I shouldn't surmise what the commission was thinking, but, on the one hand, you want to wait to actually see what the circumstances are that you're going to be dealing with. But had we perhaps made the filing sooner, we could have had this at an admin meeting sooner, and had a decision sooner, and we could have been communicating, say in November, early December, with the rate still effective in January. So, again, if the commission doesn't set, the rates or decide on an offset for year 3, I think we would be well served by having us, kind of tee the process or tee this discussion back up sooner, so that we can get, we can be doing this, say in, October or November, so that we can be communicating in advance of January 1st.
Fair enough, and there's nothing to prevent you from doing that next year. So I find that very helpful. Thank you for that. I think we endeavor to make sure the customers know what's heading at them and not kind of be opaque with that information. So.
This is Lynn Fire with BGE. If I might just clarify one point that was made by both Commissioner Linton and Commissioner O'Donnell. When we set these rates in our billing system, the new base rates, we set them effective with usage on or after January 1st. So the consumption, the usage that customers are incurring today will not be charged to the new 2022 base rates. That'll be
Fair
usage
enough,
on or
but-
after January
but
1.
I appreciate that, Ms. Fiery, but the reality is if we act on the 22nd, January 1st rates are going to go into effect and the customers aren't going to know about it.
Yep. It doesn't diminish the concern. I just wanted to clarify at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. I appreciated that exchange between you and Ms. Sikora. Any additional comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, this is John Frayne again. I have numbers for you on the amount of tax benefits that would be available at this point. We have about $150 million left in tax benefits for electric distribution and
Was
about
that
70.
Hold on, was that 150 or 115?
150,
Okay, thank you.
150. Yep.
Thank you.
And about $70 million in gas tax benefits left available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Frayne. After hearing from Mr. Hoppick, it appears that he has these numbers as well, and there will be, in addition to the utility proposal, it sounds like there will be a number of options based on varying offset percentages for the commission to consider next Wednesday. Thank you. We appreciate all the parties being constructive today. This will help ease us into our conversation again next week on the 22nd of December. With nothing else before the commission today, this hearing is